Hello ladies and gentlemen, Willie here. Probably the final one of these videos before the pre-patch comes out. It's another news update for TBC Classic because again, as with every single one of these, an awful lot has happened between the last one and now. We're going to start off with a pretty heavy hitter stuff. The cost to clone your character to a Classic era server whilst maintaining it on TBC has been reduced. It was initially $35, now it'll be $15, 15 euros or 12 quid. And I've been trying to gauge people's reactions online as well as taking into account what I initially thought, and remarkably people are still mad about it, which I can understand to a certain degree. I do understand why there is a price on this service in the first place. Blizzard want to gauge which kind of people will be consistently playing on these servers so they can consider things like when do we need to merge servers, how active are they, and so on and so forth. How will they look moving forwards, rather than having a player who will say, man, I remember my classic character, log on, run a little circle around Ironforge for 5 minutes and log back off. They want the people who will play classic era consistently. And just to reiterate how the system actually works, as I think there might be a bit of confusion around it, there's no fear of missing out here with what they're doing. So after the pre-patch is open, your character will have been snapshotted. You'll have the version on the current servers, then you'll have the version on the classic servers as well. You can confirm which one you want to carry your character on into. So if you pick classic, it will be there on the classic realms. If you pick TBC, you'll go forwards on TBC. But the snapshot on classic era will still be there. And if you have picked to go ahead with TBC, it will be there, I imagine, forever until you want to unlock that service. And it's at that point where you have to pay the $15 to actually log into it. So it's not like after they've done the pre-patch, you have to fork out the money straight away. You can do it whenever you like, basically. I would have expected it to be about $15 initially. I've said in a previous video as much. And I did speculate there was some kind of door-in-the-face pricing strategy ongoing here where we'd be given an incredibly outrageous offer and then it would be shortly lowered thereafter, and that's ended up being exactly what has happened. I am nevertheless surprised that it's been lowered, and I don't get why we needed the outrage at 35 to get to where we are at 15. If it initially came out at 15, I'd have said, well, you know, it's the higher end of what I expected, but 15 is fine for the service that they're offering. There's a reason you don't let people server transfer or faction change in retail, for example. You want certain things to be restricted to some degree, and making people fork out money does that very effectively, whilst also being highly incentivized for Blizzard to create the kind of scenario where that interaction exists. Maybe one copy could have been okay though per account, just as a gesture of goodwill to the classic era players. So whilst yes, it's a problem the company has created, where the solution is to give them money for one of their standard automated and overpriced services, at least you get to save some extra money on Wendy's or Nando's, depending where you are these days. Moving on though, and speaking of the classic era realms and what will be happening to those, they are due to be connected. They do this exact thing in retail actually, and have done for quite some time. To be clear, connecting is not sharding. And it's not merging. It's a lot simpler than both of those things, really. If you were to merge two servers, there'd be difficulties between who gets to keep their name and who gets to keep their guild name, and I imagine it'd be done much like the way World Chat is, where it's based on seniority of who made their character first. When a realm is connected, it's just like they link the two together. So for example, I'm on Pyrewood Village at the moment. After the realms are connected on Classic Era, I might see a player from Mirage Raceway, and they just have their name and then their server name afterwards. I think this was pretty much necessary for Classic Era servers to do well moving forwards. I know keeping everything on your server is one of the things which has been incredibly important for Classic and is a thing that's built out communities, but I don't see how they go into the Classic Era servers without doing something like this. And then we have the approach Blizzard have for the RP realms, which they do mention in the post, but they haven't actually done anything about. Again, similar to retail, RP realms aren't sharded. I don't believe they're connected, which means at the moment each and every RP server will be on their own little island with no connections to anywhere else, meaning your population is likely to be even lower than the average server. But I guess when you sign up to an RP server, you're looking for a different kind of experience, so you'll have to let me know how you feel about that, what kind of feedback, or whether you would want to be connected to another server. Also, there are some servers in the world like Remy Loss, which is the only PvE server on the Oceanic realms, which has nothing to connect to because servers are connected on a PvP to PvP or PvE to PvE basis. So again, they're on their island and it's going to be very low pop. Maybe something could be thought about to bring those servers back in some way. It also could have been a chance to look at faction balance for some servers. Now, whilst Blizzard say the factions are overall more even than we get the impressions they are, we can only base what we have off Ironforge.pro, but I have a feeling a lot of people who are going to be staying on will be those guys with level 60s already. So I think Ironforge.pro is actually quite a good indicator, and for example, some of the server groups they're putting together have put a bunch of Horde majority with Horde majority, so world PvP will be even less likely than it already has been in Classic. But regardless, that's the news that the realms will be connected. Now I've got a few quickfire ones to go through, all of which are pretty interesting changes. The floating healing text, which was standard in TBC, has now been built into the UI and is working correctly on the beta, which is great news for healers. It gives you a better visual indication if you aren't using an add-on as to exactly who's getting healed in front of you, and it's going to make Shadow Priest's screen look like an absolute mess, which was, of course, how it was back in the day. Blizzard are extending the maximum range of nameplates from 10 to 41 yards, which will be done via a macro script, which I will copy into the description, so you can save that into your add-ons for the pre-patch time. Again, another very welcome change. When it was reduced to 10 in Classic, it did feel like such a shame that that had to happen. So if you're a hunter, for example, you'll actually be able to see the health bar of the thing you're shooting, which is so far away. In TBC, mail sent between characters on your account will be instantaneous. There'll be no need for that hour wait anymore. Mail sent to other players should still have the delay. And it's great news that mail is going to be going instantly between your characters, because guild banks are not in TBC from launch. There isn't really an express reason why. Blizzard have said they're planning to bring them out earlier than they initially were in TBC, so back then they would have been in patch 2.3, which is Zul'Aman, which would be our phase 4, which is quite late into the expansion, and they have said they want to bring guild banks into the game sooner than that point in time. So it's a shame we're not getting them at launch. That would have been great because, you know, guild bank management can be an absolute mess. So fingers crossed they're in and working sooner rather than later. Again, it's a bit of an unfortunate one, but we've had a lot of good news to make up for it. The way arena gear will be acquired via rating restrictions has been changed from the Season 4 formula to the Season 3. Now the head, chest and legs have no rating requirements. The only rating requirements are for the weapon, which is 1850, and the shoulders, which is 2000, which makes higher end arena gear a lot more accessible to a wider range of players. Blizzard have also expanded on how many arena points will be given for certain brackets, because we're starting at 0 rating instead of 1500 as we would have in TBC. So it's still not exactly a free weapon if you're not the best PvPer in the world, but at the same time you can't just slash dance your way through 10 games a week and eventually be able to afford the weapon. So I think it's a bit of a compromise between the two. Blizzard have also indicated they want to keep this system around for Arena Seasons 1 and 2, and then we'll review how things are going for Seasons 3 and 4, where they may update it to the Season 4, which we had prior to this gearing system, or they may just keep as is if they're happy with it. So I guess that's good news for feral tanks who value resilience early on. As for everyone else, you'll have to let me know how you feel about the changes. I think it's being largely positively received. That about wraps up the news at the moment. We're getting extremely close to the pre-patch now. The auction house is currently closed, which will be opened again very soon. I'll definitely be doing some check-ins for the Classic era servers to see how things are going, but we need a good few months down the line after TBC's launch to really be able to evaluate it, I feel. Also, I'll be doing the 100k subs video soon. I wasn't sure what to do with it for the longest time, but I feel like this is something which would fit on the channel. And I want to do a few announcements at that point in time as well, so hopefully there'll be a lot of exciting things to hear then. So stay tuned for that very soon. And no, I don't have the 100k thingy you get from YouTube after you hit it from the post. It might not arrive for ages and ages. Who knows how things look for them these days. That's about it though. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching and listening in, and I'll see you all in the next one very soon.